Let's see here. Today is 25 January, Sunday. I'm Charlie Garrett, and this is the CG Prophecy Report. Honey, we're moving to Florida.
Woohoo!
That and a lot of other things to go over on today's report. Okay, it's a good week to have the Florida thing because it's so cold out there in parts of the world that it's actually snowed in Gehenna.
Oh.
It's true. My friend lives in Gehenna, Ohio.
Oh.
And he got 8 inches so far, and I just read that they're going to get another 14 to 16 inches. So it's snowing in Gehenna.
Why would you name your town Gehenna?
I was just thinking that.
Hey,
Wow.
all I know is it's snowing in Gehenna. Okay, we got some news from Israel. From all Israel, Germany signs $3.1 billion expanded Arrow missile defense deal with Israel. We had it proposed, and then we reported on it being approved, and now they have signed it. So Germany is doing this, $3.1 billion for Israel, marking the second Arrow missile defense deal Germany has signed with Israel Defense Company in 2 years. So things are moving up there. A couple people emailed me over the past week, and they were kind of upset at Trump because he said, we built the Iron Dome. Netanyahu stopped taking advantage of that or credit for it. And I think they misunderstood what Trump is saying is that we initiated the process with the Patriot missiles that saved Israel during the Iraq War. We had those in there. It was our development that allowed that to happen. And then Israel developed their own Iron Dome based on that. So just so you know, Trump is not trying to take credit for something that we didn't do. We did, but it's not the fullness of the Iron Dome. They have adapted and made it better, and it covers their entire country. So anyway, all Israel again. Germany seeks to learn from Israel. Build Cyber Dome as countries deepen defense cooperation. So not only has Israel got an Iron Dome, but they have their Cyber Dome, and countries of the world are looking at. And, Israel gets attacked like more than any country on the planet with cyber stuff. I mean, they know how to defend against it. And there's one site, I don't remember what it's called, but if you look it up, I'm sure you can find it, where it shows all of these cyber attacks that are going on in the world real time. And they're everywhere, constantly. People are trying to get into other people's stuff. America is always highly targeted. Israel is highly targeted, etc. But they're out there and they're trying to get into your life. Let's see here. Following up on the expanded Arrow 3 missile defense system agreement, Netanyahu also announced the signing of a new cybersecurity agreement between the two countries. The agreement establishes a wide-ranging partnership between the security agencies of both nations, focusing on cyber defense, law enforcement, counterterrorism, civil defense, and advanced technologies. Netanyahu said, I attach enormous importance to the overall cooperation between Israel and Germany, and especially Israel and Germany on this question of cybersecurity, which is one of the main threats to our internal security and in many ways also our infrastructure and other threats. So there you go with that. Times of Israel. Jerusalem severs ties with, this is about a week and a half ago, I would think, with 7 UN agencies citing anti-Israel bias. They should have done this years ago. Nobody in the UN likes Israel. It's completely anti-Israel up there, but they've been trying to, participate, and maybe people will like us someday, and it just keeps not happening. And so finally, they just said, we're done with this. The agencies Israel withdrew from, effective immediately, are the Office of the Special Representation of the Secretary General for Children and Armed Conflict, UN Entity for Gender Equality and the Empowerment of Women. Now, I can't think of anybody that empowers women more than Israel, but whatever. UN Conference on Trade and Development, UN Economic and Social Communications for Western Asia, UN Alliance of Civilizations, UNRWA, and Global Forum on Migration and Development. The Foreign Ministry said it was ceasing cooperation with the Office of the Special Representation of the Secretary General for Children in Armed Conflict after it added the IDF to a blacklist in its annual report on children in armed conflict, along with Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. So they are on the same level with the UN as Hamas and Islamic Jihad. That's how they look at Israel. That makes a lot of sense. Israel's the only democratic country to be listed alongside ISIS and Boko Haram. So they got them conflated with those people. Similarly, it said Saar pulled Israel out of the UN Women deal after it deliberately ignored all cases of sexual violence committed against Israeli women on October 7, 2023. They completely ignored it. And so Israel says, why are we a part of this? Our women have been raped, they've been killed, and they've been captured, and they're hostages, and you didn't say anything. So, once again, it cited virulent anti-Israel reports as the reason for withdrawing from both the UN Agency for Trade and Development and the UN Economic and Social Communications for Western Asia, and says the Alliance of Civilizations is used as a platform for attacks against Israel. Finally, it accused UNRWA of being a wasteful organization, which, if it's got UN in front of it, trust me, it's wasteful. Yeah, reflective of the excessive and inefficient bureaucracy of the United Nations, and said that the Global Forum on Migration and Development erodes the ability of sovereign nations to enforce their own immigration laws, which is the whole point, is they want to have everybody immigrating to places where there's, people productive and working hard so that they can go there and soak off of them. And Israel, of course, has walls up everywhere. America is putting up walls on the south border. I can just see it. Next guy comes in, he's going to be elected as some Democrat, and he's going to go in there and he's going to topple those things over, right? I mean, and then they'll say that it's all the Republicans' fault for whatever happens. Times of Israel, UN chief threatens to refer Israel to World Court over laws targeting UNRWA. Guterres has warned Israel in a letter that he could refer the country to the ICJ if it does not repeal laws targeting the UNRWA and return seized assets and property. Like, they have to have UN in their country. They're obligated to have UN in their country. Why don't they do this with anybody else? They wouldn't do it with Donald Trump if he said, we want the UN out tomorrow. They'd pack their bags and they'd be out. Yeah, it'd be a great idea. We are not fazed by the Secretary General's threats. Instead of dealing with the undeniable involvement of UNRWA personnel in terrorism, the Secretary General chooses to threaten Israel. This is not defending international law. This is defending an organization marred by terrorism. Speaking of terrorism, we've had so far 2 domestic terrorists killed in Minnesota in the past couple weeks. You play hard with the federal government and you are going to get bit. If you are going in there with the intent of causing trouble, bad things could happen. I would advise you, we had those miscreants on Main Street yesterday, leaving the projects and coming down. Yeah, a whole bunch of them. Of course, they all had their rainbow shirts on and their purple hair and, a bunch of old lefty, hippie-looking people standing there and how they hate ICE. They're not thinking life through at all. From all Israel, Ben Giver's party finalizes death penalty for terrorists bill. Now, I don't think this will pass, but it would be great if it does. Seeks to hang terrorists within 90 days of sentence. That is a way to reduce the population of their jails. They've got tons of these people in there. They hold on to them. And then anytime that there is a conflict of any type, somebody goes in, steals a Jew, and they have to trade 300 Jews for 300 Muslims for one Jew. Well, they passed the law to do away with that. It'll be a one-to-one thing now, but I doubt if this will pass, but it would be a great deterrent. Okay, they say, they do this on the left in America, and they've been doing it every time you have an execution. Executions do not stop crime. Can you imagine? That's the marching beat of the left.
Insane.
Yeah, hello. Gateway Pundit. Oh, some news from Christianity here, from the Gateway Pundit. Bible sales surge 134% in Britain.
Nice.
Unbelievable. And hit record level. as Generation Z embraces Christianity in droves. Bible sales in Britain have hit their highest level on record. In Britain.
Wow.
The figures more than doubled compared to pre-pandemic levels, reportedly driven by a surge in interest from Generation Z. Total UK sales of the religious text reached £6.3 million last year. Not pounds of Bibles, that's pounds of money, okay? Yeah. Sales have also risen by 106% in volume over the same period. Unbelievable. Between 2024 and 2025, sales went up 25% in value and 28% in volume. This is part of what many see as a significant cultural shift regarding matters of faith and religion in the kingdom. Last month, a UK survey found Christmas churchgoing was on the rise in Britain, with nearly half of people planning to attend a service or event, with Generation Z also leading the trend. Some 45% of UK adults said they expected to visit a church in Christmas 2025, up 40% from the previous year, according to the study for the charity Tear Fund. Younger people were found to be far more likely to go to church, with reasons given ranging from tradition to spiritual reflection and support to the atmosphere. So that's kind of wonderful. One of the things, it was in that article, and apparently I cut it out, but one of my friends from Scotland, he calls me sometimes, Red is his name, and he said that there in Scotland, which is a part of this, they have a Bible called the Action Bible, and it's very popular over there. I hadn't heard of it, and so what I did, yes, I bought, guess what? The Action Bible. It's a comic. Okay, now listen, I'm not one of these people that's totally freaked out about you should use this version or that version, or you should never use this or that. They are not claiming that this is the inspired Word of God. This is like a children's book where everybody reads children's stories to children about the Bible. This is basically that. And it's got, a bunch of stories. It's got David and Goliath and, this story and that story, and they're not in order. It's just a compilation of, it's got the Psalms here. It's got, Hezekiah's healing. It's very interesting, and I look through it. I don't see anything wrong with it. So I have a granddaughter that's going to have her own copy of the Action Bible. Yes. Okay. Anyway, it's getting the Word of God into young minds. Okay. And if it works and they get interested in the things of God, more power to them. I am not into things like The Message. I don't think that's a good idea. What he did was not well thought out. Paraphrases are fine, but when you take something and you make a paraphrase of a paraphrase of a paraphrase, you're no longer really in the scope of what you would call something readable and, honoring of the Lord. I would never recommend something like that. There are lots of Bibles I don't recommend. If you get an NIV, I would not go past the copyright year 2004. After that, they started to go woke, and of course, we change brethren to brothers and sisters. And the reason why they do this, and the NAS did this recently, so my friend gave me an NASB Bible, and I handed it back to her, and I said, I don't want that one. I'll get an older one. The reason why I don't like that is not because it, in the Greek or in the Hebrew, the male represents everybody. So when you have one male in a congregation, it would say he. That's just the way it is. If it's all women, then you would use the feminine. But if it's masculine, you would say the masculine. Or if there's a male, you would say the masculine. Okay, now that's fine. And if somebody started with a translation and they said brothers and sisters, I would have no problem with that. But when they have a translation like the NIV that starts with the masculine, and then they change it specifically for accommodating, I will no longer recommend that Bible. Okay, the NASB has done that. They have gone from having the masculine to now saying brothers and sisters or whatever. Once you do that, to me, you have gone woke. And that is a choice that you have made. If somebody just started and you said, well, this actually applies to men and women, and that was their first edition, I would have no problem with that. That may sound like a double standard, but to me, it is not. It is showing a trend in people's thinking that we're going to change our translation to accommodate, and I disagree with that. So, Action Bible, Action Jackson. Ministry Watch, Chattanooga preacher and entrepreneur sentenced for COVID relief fraud. Now, the reason why I'm reading this will probably evade you until I explain it, because this happens all the time. This is the kind of thing all over America. These people are cheating on COVID. And, they're getting in millions of dollars. But when I read this particular article, I thought I'm going to highlight it for this particular reason. On January 8th, Ricky Lee Taylor Jr., 36, was sentenced to 30 months in prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. Taylor, a preacher and entrepreneur in Chattanooga, was sentenced for tax fraud and using fraudulent documents to apply for Paycheck Protection Program loans. On top of the prison sentence, the judge also ordered Taylor to pay $2.5 million in restitution to the United States, plus a money judgment of $942,239. So he's owing a lot more than he stole originally. Taylor submitted a letter to District Judge Travis McDonough Atchley ahead of sentencing. He wrote, "As you may know, I do not have any criminal history, and I am still stunned, shocked, and paralyzed that I'm in this situation, so let me walk you through everything that was going through my mind." Taylor went on to explain why he submitted fraudulent applications. Taylor says he applied for the loans because he didn't want his employees to get evicted or be unable to feed their children. He says the first round of funds ran out quickly from keeping employees on payroll and paying for unexpected expenses with the trucks. He said he made poor decisions in the second round of funding. Worried the pandemic was going to last a long time, he applied for more money than he was qualified to receive. Between 8 fraudulent PPP applications, Taylor received approximately $1.8 million in relief funds. He was also convicted of tax fraud for not claiming the loan income on his tax returns. "I was just trying to save my company and retain my employees, just like every other small business owner affected by the pandemic," Taylor said in the letter. "I have a heart for people, and I didn't want to lose those relationships with my employees." Okay, here's why I included that. We are going right now through 1 Samuel. We have a hero that is being highlighted in 1 Samuel named Saul. Saul got himself into trouble. Okay, Saul lost the right to the kingship. And when he was confronted with his sin, what did he do? Just what this guy did.
Yep.
But. When David got caught doing something actually as bad, okay, because the law is the law, and even though the Lord said specifically to Saul, you are to do this, he also said you are not to commit adultery. The same Lord gave positive commands, okay? What did David do when he was confronted with his sin? He didn't make any excuses. "I sinned," and he wrote a psalm, and he said, "Lord, I have done against you, you alone. That I have sinned against you, you alone." Okay? Don't make excuses when you are caught doing something, okay? You got caught doing something. We all do things wrong, and when you get caught, admit it. Just be done with it. That's my little recommendation for you, because all he's done is he's added fuel to his own fire, all right? We got some news from the Mideast and Africa today from Zero Hedge. UK bans Dutch commentator for criticizing Starmer while welcoming illegal migrant hordes. This is the thinking of that guy in the UK right now. He's just like the left here. We have people that want to come into America and they say, no, you can't because you disagree with the political views of people. Okay. Trump does that too, but at the same time, he's very consistent about what he is doing. We're getting rid of the bad people as well. This guy's letting these people in. They can say anything they want against the government, but if you are a reporter and you say something bad about the UK government, they won't let you in. That makes no sense. Dutch commentator Eva, I'm not even going to try that last name. It's like this long. Learned this the hard way when her travel authorization was revoked just days after calling out Starmer's hypocrisy on immigration and free speech. And she didn't really say anything bad about the UK or about their policy. She's just saying he's a hypocrite, right? Whereas here, when Trump gets rid of somebody, it's because they are violently speaking against the United States of America, or they are defending known terrorist organizations when they lied on their application to come here in the first place. So there is a difference. This lady with this long name, 29-year-old Dutch lawyer, political commentator, and activist, has built a reputation for her outspoken criticism of mass immigration. globalism, and threats to Western culture. Formerly affiliated with the Netherlands Forum for Democracy Party, she advocates for re-migration policies to preserve national identity and has amassed a large following on social media for her unfiltered takes on Europe's migration crisis. As such, her views have made her a target for leftist regimes eager to silence dissent. The UK, it sounds just like the Biden administration. It sounds just like what they were doing. Ministry of Disinformation and all that nonsense. The UK government informed Eva, your presence in the UK is not considered to be conducive to the public good. The post she referred slammed Starmer directly. Keir Starmer wants to crack down on X under the pretense of women's safety, whilst he's the one allowing the ongoing rape and killing of British girls by migrant rape gangs. Evil, despicable man. Did she say anything untruthful?
No.
That's the question. She did not. She told the truth. Times of Israel. Dire financial crisis for UNRWA to drop hundreds of ex-Gazan staff from the payroll. You can hear the violins playing now, can't you? For more than 7 decades, the UNRWA has provided aid and assistance to Palestinian refugees across Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon, Jordan, and Syria. Did you hear what they just said? For more than 7 decades, a person that is a refugee is a one-generation thing. This is the only exception to this on the planet, is the Palestinian cause. It's the only exception to this on the planet. So when you hear this, just think about that. 7 decades of people. That means children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren are all refugees, according to the UN, against Israel. It's insane. But the agency has seen the voluntary contributions it relies on dwindle, as it has become the focus of increasingly harsh Israeli criticism over its role, causing what the spokesperson called an unprecedented financial crisis. Israel has alleged that more than 10% of UNRWA staff in Gaza have ties to terror groups, that members of its staff took part in October 7th, 2023 invasion and massacre in southern Israel, and that educational facilities under the organization's auspices consistently incite hatred of Israel and glorify terror. While the work the UNRWA was mandated to do cost around $880 million in 2025, the agency received only around $570 million. As things stand, we expect a substantial shortfall in 2026. The world is sick of them. Hamas on Wednesday slammed the decision as unjust and a violation of the fundamental rights of these employees. We call on UNRWA to assume its role and responsibilities towards the Palestinian people and its employees. It's exactly what they said about Trump firing these people in the U.S. government. Exactly what this is unjust. It's not fair to these people, et cetera, et cetera. And so we had every single judge in America on the left suing every single decision that Donald Trump made. And all of them have been overturned. It's just an agenda to keep the pig fed. That's all it is. From All Israel, UNRWA announces plans to open permanent office in Turkey. We have signed the final agreement with the government of Turkey, and this time it has been also endorsed by the parliament, Lazzarini told the media. However, unlike all other refugee agencies, UNRWA stands out by uniquely passing on the refugee status from one generation to the next, exactly what I was talking about. Critics have therefore argued that UNRWA is perpetuating rather than solving the conflict. And that's what they want. They want it perpetuated as a wedge against Israel. UNRWA's decision to open an office in Turkey is likely not coincidental. The Turkish government maintains close ties with Hamas, which is deeply embedded in UNRWA. Well, Turkey can be halal meat, and so it's a good place for them to be. That was a joke. World Israel News. Lebanon makes shocking admission about Israel's right to fight Hezbollah. Lebanon publicly acknowledged that Israel is entitled under the terms of the November 2024 ceasefire agreement to carry out military strikes against the Hezbollah terror organization. They actually came out and admitted it. Yes, they have every right to do this. It is Hezbollah that has been violating the treaty. And so what does Israel do? They respond. And I read you the stats a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago. It's like 3,000 times in the past year, Hezbollah has violated the treaty. And so Israel has gone in and attacked. And finally, they're saying, they actually have a right to do this. Arab News, U.S. to revoke citizenship of naturalized migrants convicted of fraud, Trump says. Times of Israel, U.S. labels Muslim Brotherhood branches in Egypt, Lebanon, and Jordan as terror organizations. That was last week. Breitbart, Austria set to ban use of Sharia law in civil legal disputes. Well, that's a good decision.
Wow.
Times of Israel, Lebanon inks deal with international firms to explore gas in offshore area bordering Israel. That could be a powder keg at some point. It is defined, but somebody may go over a line, or they may put in one of those boring things that goes this way and start stealing the other's gas. But for now, at least they're doing that. Gateway Pundit, people using their brains. Broken Arrow Council in Oklahoma rejects by 4-1. Anybody hear about this?
I do.
The construction of a massive Islamic center after massive citizen opposition. Isn't that great?
Yes.
Absolutely. The people said, we don't want this, and they caved, and they said, okay, we're not approving it. Good job. Just so you know, the people using their brains part was my addition. Anyway, from Mongolia, from Nat Geo, which is National Geographic, this sacred site is one of the world's oldest nature reserves. And then they said, enter your email to read this article. Plus, get unlimited access to free National Geographic content. Well, I don't want them to have my email. Okay, they're a lefty organization, so I can't give you that information. So if you want to know about the sacred site that is one of the world's oldest nature reserves, type it in and subscribe. Okay, you can do that for me, and then I will tell you what it says. Daniel 12 Technology, interesting engineering. This is really cool. My friend Les sent this to me that does the Lesrics, and I agree. It's fun. U.S. Marines test deadly autonomous drones that can assist crewed fighter jets. So you've got a crewed fighter jet, and you've got another drone, which is a fighter jet with nobody in it, and they can help each other. Northrop Grumman and Kratos Defense and Security Solutions are collaborating to build autonomous military drones for the U.S. Marine Corps. The partnership will see Northrop lend its expertise to the development of Kratos' pilotless Valkyrie drone. Their goal is to prepare the platform to fly alongside crewed Marine Corps fighter jets in high-threat environments. Ultimately, Valkyrie could serve as a state-of-the-art wingman for crewed fighter jets. It could divert enemy fire as well as provide backup and support during aerial altercations. CCAs are uncrewed aircraft that can provide aerial support with almost no direction from the pilots flying nearby. The Air Force has made CCAs a top priority. These drones could eventually carry out autonomous strike missions, engage in electronic warfare by jamming enemy signals, or serve as decoys, luring enemy fire away from crewed fighters. They could fly alongside crewed F-35s, as well as the next generation in development F-47 fighters. In a press statement, Kratos Defense stated that Northrop Grumman will provide an advanced mission kit for the Valkyrie. This will include sensors and software-defined technologies for uncrewed aircraft. The defense and aerospace giant will also provide an open architecture autonomy software package known as PRISM to manage the aircraft's operation autonomously. According to Kratos, its drone can travel up to 3,000 nautical miles and reach a top speed of 659 miles per hour. It can fly at altitudes as high as 45,000 feet and carry a maximum weight of 6,000 pounds. This is just like a fighter jet, but it has nobody in it. It is very impressive. It's a dangerous world, including the inevitable plagues noted in the book of Revelation. From WFLA, that's right over in Tampa. Heavy metals found in more than half of baby formula samples in Florida, governor says. Heavy metals. Okay, they got Metallica. They've got, yeah.
Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses. Tons of roses. Okay, it's, from the Sun. We are dying. Mystery virus ravages Cuba, leaving hospitals on verge of collapse as death toll covered up and medics are silenced. I hadn't heard about this anywhere else except here. And I've said before, the Sun is not always reliable, but they do have pictures and stuff, so I would assume that at least it's quasi-true. High fevers, red spots, peeling skin, swollen joints, vomiting, and diarrhea are among symptoms crippling the island's population. But Cubans have no idea what they're suffering from. Cuba reported 52 deaths from the virus as of December 17th. That was the last report that they had out, apparently, most of which were children. And officials recently reported more than 38,000 suspected cases of the disease. Gateway Pundit. FDA commissioner confirms agency lied about dietary fat for decades to benefit big pharma interests. Yes, says low-fat advice drove Americans to eat more sugar and suffer higher heart attack rates. Well, guess what? When you have a heart attack, somebody's there to help you with their heart attack medicine. They've been making money off of the American public now for eons. FDA Commissioner Macri admitted that for nearly 20 years, the agency's dietary guidance on fat was not just wrong, it was misleading, triggering a cascade of unhealthy eating habits that have devastated American health. He revealed that the government's crusade against saturated fats, meat, butter, and eggs was not only scientifically hollow, but directly responsible for the explosion of the chronic disease epidemic. He suggested the narrative was kept alive, at least in part, to shield powerful corporate interests, including Big Pharma. Most damning, Macri cited data showing that people who followed low-fat diets actually suffered higher rates of heart attacks than those who consumed healthy fats, directly contradicting decades of so-called expert federal nutrition advice. Okay, from Business Insider. This sounds like a great idea. This is it. Corporate types are clamoring for a new kind of plastic surgery using, anybody? You don't, what, no? Using dead people's fat. Yes, a pricey new product, AlloClay, which sources fat from dead people, has recently hit the market. Now, who would even think of this? Getting the product injected doesn't require any downtime. Well, it does for the guy that got the fat taken out of him, making it popular with corporate types. Plastic surgeons said there are months-long wait lists for AlloClay as manufacturer races to keep up. From Public Health Policy. Study identifies over 300 peer-reviewed COVID-19 vaccine cancer cases across 27 countries. The journal hit with cyber attacks. Yeah. From Yahoo, Trump to sign bill allowing schools to offer whole and 2% milk. Good. ABC, U.S. officially exits the World Health Organization, accusing the agency of straying from its core mission. Yes, good stuff there. Morality. Gateway Pundit. Government video game teaches teens questioning mass immigration could make them terror suspects. Yeah. From The Hill. Federal judge orders HHS to restore $12 million in funding to the American Academy of Pediatrics. They're the ones that have almost ruined children in America.
Yes.
From Fox. San Antonio ends its abortion travel fund after new state law and legal action. Good. Breitbart. Mattel releases first ever autistic Barbie doll.
Yes. Yes. I heard about this. It has all these different checklists. Yes.
Yeah. Breitbart. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson still stumped by what a woman is during trans athlete cases. She had no idea. I listened to that and I'm like, this may be the dumbest person on the planet. There's a lot of competition with that one, but from Disclose, number of abortions hits record high in England and Wales. They're bringing in people. That means they have these record highs of abortions. Their birth rates are down, except in one category. They will no longer be England and Wales in a couple of years. No. Got some other news here. This is a great article by Jeffrey Fulks at the American Thinker. Need to escape socialism? Come to Florida. The difference between red and blue states, it's a much longer article. I had to just cut it down to something that would fit for you all. The difference between red and blue states is not just a matter of degree. It is a qualitative difference based on the loss of freedom in blue states and an entirely different attitude in the red states. The best example is the contrast between what now exists in New York and Florida. Whereas New York especially New York City, is slipping into a socialist nightmare, Floridians are living the dream. In New York, freedom is constrained by high taxes and regulations, and things are only getting worse. And their weather really blows, too. In Florida, taxes are low and getting lower, and the sun almost always shines. Yes. Open the door. It'll shine right in. We got this balmy, tropical south wind right now. It's wonderful. It is. I mean, it's like 5 degrees right now. My friend up in Maryland, my friend over in Texas, Abilene, 10 degrees an hour ago. He's got this much snow out there. And here we are with balmy weather. Everybody's walking around with these fake pina coladas and, it's just unbelievable. Now, I got a question before I go on. Where are you guys from?
Sarasota.
Oh, you are? You haven't been here before, have you?
No, sir.
Okay, well, I'll talk to you later, but I saw you walk in. I didn't have a time to stop, so, okay. Are you enjoying living in Sarasota?
Love it.
Oh, see? There you go. It's great. Okay, but you know what? It's going to get lethal this week. If you don't have enough furniture in your house, buy more so you can chop it up, because it's going to be highs in the 50s a couple days. So, yeah. Okay, so Florida voters understand the importance of limited government, and they have created a well-governed, fiscally sound state. Eliminating the state income tax in its entirety was only the beginning. Now there's movement toward lowering property taxes or eliminating them altogether, which would benefit nearly everyone in the state. Governor DeSantis is perhaps the biggest supporter of property tax reform. He proposed eliminating property taxes for all Floridians in his 2025 State of the State address, in which he said forcing citizens to pay property taxes for life is like renting one's property from the government. The governor's proposal would apply to all property, including commercial and rental property. There is widespread support for some form of property tax relief, but the devil is in the details. An interim plan to rebate approximately $1,000 to owners of primary residences was proposed in March 2025. In response, Senate Bill 734 was introduced to create a legislative commission to study the feasibility of eliminating all or part of the state's property taxes, and with the likelihood of a state constitutional amendment to appear on the 2026 ballot. Other legislative proposals include an increase in the state's homestead exemption, currently totaling $50,000 for the primary residence, a tax exemption of $100,000 on all types of property, or a reduction in the state's sales tax. Republican lawmakers generally support some form of tax relief, whereas Democrats oppose it. But since Republicans outnumber Democrats by 84 to 33 in the state House and 27 to 11 in the Senate, it seems likely that some form of tax reform will become law. Meanwhile, states like California and New York are moving in the opposite direction. The marginal income tax rate in California is 12.3%, and this on top of state property taxes, sales taxes of 7.25%, and numerous other local taxes and fees. As for New York, the statewide income tax is a marginal 10.9%, which is 14.78% for high earners in New York City, with state and local taxes as high as 8.875%. Property tax rates averaging more than twice those in California, and numerous other state and local taxes and fees, including a ludicrous $9 congestion zone fee for entering Lower Manhattan. On top of this, New York is one of a handful of states that still charges a death tax, with a marginal rate of 16% on qualifying estates, and this on top of the marginal federal estate tax of 45%. That one senator, I think it was, may have been a representative about 20 years ago, said no taxation without respiration. Yes. Mayor Mondani has vowed to raise corporate taxes from 8.85% to 11.5% and to impose a 2% surcharge on those earning over $1 million on top of existing taxes. According to the Cato Institute, the income tax increase would tempt high-earning New Yorkers to relocate to Long Island and the lower Hudson Valley, where they can still be close to the city, if not out of the state altogether. To recap, Floridians pay a total of 6% in state taxes and average property tax rates that are already half of what they are in New York and may be further lowered in 2026 and 2027. Adding it up, affluent New Yorkers pay marginal rates of at least 36%, including the estate tax, or nearly 40% in New York City. And all of this on top of federal income tax and estate taxes. There's not much left for individuals, and this level of taxation is an assault on personal liberty. There's not much difference between communism, where the state owns everything, and an American city where the government takes 80%. One should also note that the public debt ratio in New York is already 442%. While California has twice as much debt in absolute terms, which is $500 billion. Under Governor DeSantis, Florida's debt ratio is 2.6%, a 25-year low. Clearly, New York and California are moving in the wrong direction, whereas Florida is moving very much in the right direction. And this because Florida is a well-run conservative state filled with well-informed voters. What will be the effect of these continuing high and potentially higher taxes in blue states? Migration of wealthy and middle-class residents, and it's already happening. Affluent citizens are leaving New York in a steady stream. Between 2019 and 2020 alone, nearly 10% of high earners left New York City. More recently, the exodus has continued. California is experiencing its own outward migration of wealthy and middle-class residents, and not merely for tax reasons. California ranks 6th in the nation for high violent crime and 8th for property crime. The cost of living is the 3rd highest in the United States. Homelessness is at a record high, with 24% of the nation's homeless living in California. 24% in one state. And California's public schools, once near the top, now come out well below average. One could cite many other blue states, including Illinois, as evidence of liberal mismanagement, and other red states like Texas and Tennessee for proof of sound conservative governance. The fact is that all human beings want much the same thing: safety, security, prosperity, and freedom, including freedom from government restrictions and high taxes. Today in America, Florida offers that freedom. New York and California do not. In America, the red states are keeping the American dream alive. Personal liberty includes freedom from government confiscation of wealth, whether that confiscation takes the form of Soviet-style direct confiscation or seizure through taxation. Voters in New York and California have not learned the lesson that high taxes and lower regulation lower the quality of life and infringe on freedom. Fortunately, we live in a country, unlike communist China or North Korea, where one can relocate freely to another state. Freedom may be dying in New York, but the sun is still shining in Florida. Yes. Okay, from CBS, Governor Ron DeSantis lauds accomplishments at final State of the State address. We are the free state of Florida. Before I read the article, I've said this many times, I'll say it again. If I ever meet him, I'm going to shake his hand and say exactly this to him. He is one of 6 men in America, 6, that saved our freedoms. During COVID, 6 governors stood up and they said, and there may have been a female Republican governor, I don't know. There were 6 governors that stood up and said, we are not going to abide by this. If all the states shut down, the government would have taken control of this nation. That guy. DeSantis was the first, and 6 others stood with him, and that saved this nation. Florida Rainy Day Fund budget reserves grew under DeSantis leadership. Florida sees highest high school graduation rate in state history. Funding for Florida Everglades restoration quadrupled. Florida top law and order state in the entire country. DeSantis wants tax relief brought to residents. The legislature has the ability to put a measure on the ballot to provide transformational relief to taxpayers, DeSantis said. Let's resolve to all work together, get something done, and let the people have a say. Good job. I appreciate our governor. I hope he will run again in 4 more years and be our governor again. From the post-millennial, California loses $1 trillion as billionaires pack their bags, flee state over fears of looming wealth taxes, says a report. We've got somebody in this church who has a brother that is leaving California with a very profitable business for exactly this reason. From the Florida Phoenix, Florida Supreme Court ends 3-decade reliance on the American Bar Association, handing a win to DeSantis. Great decision. They become so far to the left, they just cannot be impartial. Good job, DeSantis. Okay, who said it? Knowledge is realizing that the street is one way. Wisdom is looking in both directions anyway. Probably, yeah. Einstein said it. No kidding. If you hit a person, you're going down a one-way street in Japan, and you hit a person in Japan, I'm talking about a pedestrian or bicyclist, you are in the wrong. Even if they are totally wrong, you are going the right way if you hit somebody, and that happened to a U.S. service member when I was in Japan, and we had to ship him out because they were charging him like $1,000 a day and paying all the hospital bills for this person that was going the wrong way down a street. Okay, so you got to be careful when you go overseas to pay attention, and probably best you don't drive at all unless you are absolutely sure of what could happen to you. It was a humanitarian move. They just picked him up and moved him out because it was terrible. He would have been completely broke for the rest of his life. But anyway, just be careful. Gotham City is going downhill as the state that it's in stuffs the till. Not like Florida, you see. There you're largely tax-free. Unlike New York, they won't tax your will. Okay, that was Les who did that one. Okay, got a couple ironies and we will be done. Breitbart. Let me see. I always have to read these because I'm kind of in a mood when I put them in, and then sometimes I don't want to say what it is, but this one is okay. Leftist who called Trump a pedophile is accused of trying to meet 11-year-old for sex. And Mail Online. This is actually very, very cute, but it is true. Exhausted mom of 4 needed a break, so she called the police on herself. Yes, they came out and they gave her a break. She was overwhelmed with, and she's, not just a crazy person. She was just, her husband was gone. She needed a break. Such is the world in which we live. So from Sarasota, Florida to Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, I'm Charlie Garrett, and that is your CG Prophecy Report for the week.